miserable.
Too ha. So Phil is this is the Miserable Podcast. Terrible at this. Yeah, welcome back to the Miserable Podcast. This is episode. What
Something.
number is this? We don't know.
If we're doing this chronologically,
I just
it would
need
be
chronologically. What would it
We're
be?
gonna put the
9?
number in
9,
there.
right?
Oh, see, now you
Put
messed
it in
it up.
post.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Look, should we just no? We're going with it. Here
This
we
episode,
go.
beep.
So, welcome to the Miserable Podcast again. Of course, this is Jeremy. I got Phil to my right, Paulie, Paul. What do you want me to call you? David asked me that today. He said,
Really?
I said Paulie, and I was like, well, Paul. You met Paul. And so I gave him the story of how I just can't stop calling you Paulie for some reason. Do you care?
I don't care what you call me.
Let our listeners know, what do you want to be called?
Andres.
I hate this mic stand.
All right, Andres.
So yeah, Miserable Podcast. We're here. This is the technically the third podcast that we have recorded in our new office/studio space. Again, shout out to Brickyard Woodbridge. We're founders of this place, bro. They're giving us like special treatment.
Much love.
Yeah,
Unlimited LaCroix.
Unlimited LaCroix. Don't tell the people, man. They'll start signing up.
I don't know.
It's expensive LaCroix, folks.
dope.
But yeah, so we kind of hustled today and just brought stuff over here, hung up some acoustic panels with some command strips, and they fell. So we got bigger command strips, and we're just hoping they last through.
Our next step is to get smaller acoustic treatment, right? Because we can't go bigger on the
different.
command trips.
Command strips. We cannot talk. We should not be recording a podcast right now because we cannot
Google.
talk. So we're in an actual space now. We've been recording
A few different places.
different places, but now we have an actual office space, and there's desk over there. We have this table that you can see. There's a hallway. There's conference rooms, kitchens, free
hallway.
coffee.
That's an important element.
There's bathrooms. This is the worst podcast beginning we have ever done.
You're
or
in rare
I
form
have ever
today.
done. Who, me?
Yeah, the last ones you did, you were like saying all kinds of random stuff. You're like me or something.
I think just as the further we get into it, the less I'm trying.
Oh,
The
that's
less
good.
formality you have.
Yeah. So y'all want to start this podcast?
Yeah.
All right, let's start it.
What are we talking about?
So this is the second podcast we've done here. Third, gosh, you know
Are
what?
we starting over? Is
I
that
don't
what you
know.
meant?
I don't know. I'm trying to find a train of thought, and there's just not one there. Welcome to the Miserable Podcast. And this one is a miserable one, isn't
This
it?
is the redundant podcast.
The redundant, the repetitive podcast. I almost said God fast. What time is it? It's not late. It's 9:30. All right, here we go. Phil's drinking he made 3 shots of espresso and then was like, I want more. Started clicking espresso. I was like, bro, just add some hot water and make like an Americano. He was about to go all in. You ordered a drink one time at Starbucks, and I think it had like 12 shots in it, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
I think he got like a venti, had like 4 shots in it, and then he was like at 8 shots. I was like,
It was just straight espresso.
oh my
The entire cup.
gosh, bro. I was like,
It's a cold brew. I used to get
Freaking
a
out.
cold brew like that, bro.
a cold brew with shots in it?
Yeah.
I've done that before, just recently.
Bro, you just need to like IV yourself, like, and just.
For real, yo.
Or you need to find a
I have
Oh, wait.
Americanos now, though.
way to get more rest
Yeah,
somewhere somehow.
that's my drink.
Yeah,
Americano.
I've adapted to that junk. I like that junk.
Good.
I like that junk.
Paulie drinks tea a
And
lot.
I'm a cold brew guy too.
Yeah.
Like, I had a cold brew today. I didn't really care for it.
You know, I've never
miss my
liked
Americano.
Starbucks cold brew.
I miss my Americano.
Their nitro cold brew is better than their regular cold brew.
Really?
Let me tell you what's really good.
This is gonna end up being a casual Friday because we are just talking about nonsense. Go ahead. I want to hear though.
An iced macchiato with almond milk only.
What does that mean? What's a macchiato? It's difficult to talk about or something?
Yes.
Like, bro, that's the wrong question for me, bro. I'm sorry, man. I have a hard time even spelling that, Joe. Even saying it.
You were like, I was like, what is that? You were like,
oh shoot!
I realized that was a soft spot for you.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
We're talking about Bob Ross today.
Let's just start over.
Yeah. Let me tell you. No, this is going in. This is gold.
This
like,
is
are you kidding me? This is what happened. So we got to give it to the people. So while you stepped out, I was showing him the quote, and then the quote had Bob Ross's picture. Basically, the podcast today is based off a Bob Ross quote. So I showed him the picture. I was like, look at him. He's like such a G. He had his gold necklace on. His like fro. Like he was looking pretty fly, you know. And what did you say about him? Oh, he was like, hey, that's the dude who be doing the paint jump. And I was like, yeah. He was like, yo, he be killing that jump, right?
For real.
I was like cracking up the way he reduced it. He be doing the paint jump. So yeah, we're talking about Bob Ross today, and specifically a Bob Ross quote that I have completely forgotten after the past couple of minutes.
Y'all know, I forgot that he used to play with like squirrels and stuff like that on his show, like baby squirrels.
I can't mess with that, bro.
Did I say podcast? On his show, on his TV show?
I don't know.
Like we played some old episodes on YouTube a couple of years ago, and he's like feeding these baby squirrels. Like I was like, this was on TV. Don't remember.
Did he paint them?
Like use them as paintbrushes?
Oh my god!
Dipping their tail in the paint.
We're going nowhere in life, boys. All right, here we go. This is the Bob Ross quote.
Let's hear it.
Talent is a pursued interest. Anything that you're willing to practice, you can do. I saw this and sent it to you a couple weeks ago. I think we ended up posting it on our Instagram. Of course, gave Mr. Ross credit. I absolutely love this quote. And there's layers to this that we're going to talk about. But for our listeners, one more time, talent is a pursued interest. Talent is a pursued interest. Anything that you're willing to practice, you can do. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this quote. For a couple of reasons. And normally I pass it off to somebody right here, but let me go ahead and just tell you what I'm thinking. So I do a lot of platform type things, whether it's speaking or playing, and have for a while. You know, especially like in the church,
Right.
like world, you have people who will come up to you and it's like, oh man, like
Really
you're
talented.
just so talented. And I appreciate the comment, you know what I'm saying? But there's also a part of me that can get a little frustrated because it's almost as if the hours that I've put in are
Reduced.
kind of reduced to just, it's not the fact that you enjoyed music and you've spent your life in your basement when you were in high school and in, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
In the practice room. And it's like, it's reduced to you're talented. And there's always a part of me that wants to just be like, but this was not easy. Like I didn't just like wake up one morning and just could play the piano. Like I spent hours in the practice room when I was in school. Hours, bro. They threw me to the wolves. Like I didn't know theory that well. I didn't know anything. And I had to play the piano for a 120 person choir and play parts. Like, bro, I spent out. And you were familiar at that time. I don't think we weren't living together at that time when we were in school. But like, bro, that's where I lived. And then coming back home in between semesters and literally spending 8-9 hours a day in front of the piano trying to learn that music because it was on me in 3 weeks. You know, so talent is a pursued interest.
I think
Anything you're willing to practice, you can do. So sometimes when I hear when people are like, oh, you're so talented, and they say like, I can't play. That's the part. That's like, I could just never do that.
I think people typically confuse being talented and being gifted. It's two different things.
So explain that to me.
So if you're gifted, it's just like you were just born with that particular talent.
And it's not necessarily the ability to play.
Right.
But
it's just the instinct, just everything about it.
The ability to pick it up better than somebody else might be able to.
It's just like it becomes like second nature.
Sure.
Okay, so you buzzword, like the okay, because this is the part that like the devil's advocate in me, and that like where the debate gets off is like kind of the nature versus nurture idea. So what he's saying is you can nurture that interest and you can do it.
Right.
But there's also the gifted side. What you're talking about is like some people are born with an inclination,
right?
Maybe some people are born, they can hear pitch and like give you feedback on pitch, whatever, sing pitch better than other people or rhythmically or things like that. Okay. So that being said, and I know the answer to this, but like, is it that some people like start here when they're born, and some people start here, and some people start here, and then you practice, and then you can move to a higher level in that thing? Like, where does the nature and the nurture start? Where is like you worked for this and you're also talented? Like, where is that line? It's different for everybody, right?
It is. Yeah,
gosh,
definitely.
that bothers me.
Definitely.
You know what I think of I think of Nico Barboza, right?
Right.
So Nico is a monster. Or Izzy.
Oh.
Izzy, who came and played. They're monsters on the guitar.
Great.
To the point that I've played with guys who have played guitar for 30 years, and they're nowhere near that. Right?
Right.
I hate this topic. This drives me crazy. Because also, like, they're great. They had to have some natural gifting.
Definitely.
They had to have some that, because there's guys that'll try their whole lives and never be able to play.
They just started at a higher level than everybody else.
Right.
Yeah, they're definitely like up the scale. So the foundation that they started on, the foundation that they started on was like way more like higher. It's just like I look at like that kid drummer, or that kid bass player, like couple years at NAMM. This kid is like way more musical than me. Like, I could even never imagine. Like, he plays whatever. I'm sure he had to develop some, but that kid is just gifted, bro.
Especially to be able to start the comprehension of a lot of the more difficult concepts in music at a young age. So like things like theory or reading music. I mean, I don't want to say like, because they say like teaching, like for instance, your kids are bilingual to a degree, right?
Right.
So they say with language, it's good to start kids from the beginning because it helps them to understand it at a better
and retain it and
retain it better. So there's probably element to that with kids that are learning music. Like, you know, if you're a part of one of those families where, you know, everybody like in your family line has been a piano player, so they start you from the beginning. There's probably a mixture of elements there of some inherited talent or gifting and the time and the man hours. But a child to comprehend the more complex things that are difficult for someone who's starting at a later age it has to be that gifting.
Yeah, I definitely think gifting starts you off. It basically gives you some momentum in that direction, right? So you're already going down a runway, and at some point your gifting kind of like
lifts you
tap
off the
out.
ground. Okay.
You tap out, like you have no more kind of gas to go, and then your talent then has to kick in. It's kind of like turbo lag, right? Like you have to build up a certain amount of RPMs before your turbo kicks in. And when it kicks in, that's where talent comes in. And now you take off.
Okay. So the word you're using, gifting, insinuates that it's just something that somebody was given. So like we're Christian dudes. So let's say it's a God-given gift. That's how people say it.
Right.
Say if somebody doesn't believe in God, like the universe or whatever, just like whatever. Yeah, whatever. However it happened inside of you, you know.
Yeah, whatever.
So like, I feel you on that. That perhaps we're given gifts that we're born that we have to then
practice,
maximize on or nurture to a sense. Okay, so let's say this. Do you think I hate when I know like the answer to the question, but I don't want to admit it or whatever. So, but like, let's say somebody, is it possible to have zero natural gifting in music? Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be harder for that person.
Is it possible for somebody with zero natural gifting to become
better musician?
I don't want to use the word better. Somebody who has zero natural gifting in music or in something, is it possible for them to pursue that thing enough and practice that thing enough to become beyond competent in it? I don't know how else to say it.
Maybe that's just the difference between, like, just to generalize the idea, the difference between like learned knowledge and just kind of like that common sense or gut feeling to things. You know what I mean? Like, you may not have ever been told to do something a certain way, but it just
feels right.
Feels
natural.
Right. I mean, I haven't practiced music in a long time.
I just thought of one of my favorite stories from you, and it's worth interrupting you to tell it.
Always.
So you probably remember this. So we had when we were like in high school, like right after high school, we had a little recording set up in my parents' basement. And this is Paulie in a nutshell. You know, I love you so much. This is my favorite thing.
Yeah. You can interrupt me with the story. That's fine.
It's worth it. Now you know where I'm going. So we had a drum set up in the little recording space. And of course, it was set up for right-handed drummers because Phil's a right-handed drummer. I'm a right-handed drummer. Kenny's a right-handed drummer. Well, Paulie's not a drummer.
And I'm also left-handed.
And he's left-handed. So Paulie's sitting behind the drum set one day. And he's sitting there, and I see him looking. He's like holding the drumsticks, and he's like hitting the drum every once in a while. And I think I remember you asking me, like, so you kind of cross your hands like this, right? And I'm like, yeah, you know. And he's like talking. He's sitting there. You just see the wheels turning in his head. And this man goes, he's like, you know what? This man never played the drums a day in his life. He goes, you know what? He said, I think the reason I can't get through this. He said, I think the reason I can't play is because it's set up right-handed. He goes, I think
I remember this.
He said, I think if I switch everything around, that I'll be able to play.
And he started doing it.
And
I did the whole thing.
I'm just sitting over there kind of working on the computer. Yo, this man for 10 minutes. He takes the hi-hat, brings it around.
I switched every piece in the kit.
He takes the cymbals, moves them, switches the toms, moves the floor tom, sets the snare, like gets everything right. This man switches the whole thing, sits down, picks up the drumsticks and goes, nope, still can't play. Bro, I laughed so hard. This is like 15 years later. I'm still laughing, bro. I'm still laughing. The funniest thing.
And here's the thing for that, right? So this is kind of what I was getting at. Is I haven't practiced music.
The funniest part is he didn't even hit anything. He sat down, picked up the drumsticks, and goes, nope, still can't play. Oh my
For some reason, I felt like I was going to magically make sense, that like I was just going to be able to have rhythm all of a sudden.
Sorry. Okay, so you haven't practiced music
right.
in a long
So
time.
I haven't practiced music in a long time. The only instrument I ever really knew how to play to any successful degree was the bass guitar. I think I have a pretty good ear for things. When we used to play together a lot, I used to be able to kind of like find where we were pretty easily. I didn't advance very far in it. I never learned a lot of scales or I never learned like numbers or how to read music or any of that kind of stuff. One of the things that I feel that I was gifted with to a degree was my ear for some of that. Not at a high level.
But naturally.
But better than some other people that I've seen or played with. The one thing that I was gifted with, probably nearly 0%, is the reason for why I couldn't play the drums, is the rhythm aspect of it. Now, I could stay with rhythm, but I couldn't.
You couldn't be the rhythm.
I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't create it. I couldn't establish it, which is why I'm a bad dancer. But
well, it's one reason why.
yeah. But so for me, I wasn't gifted greatly in music, but I was able to learn, and I probably could have gotten a lot better had I stuck with it. It ended up not, once we went to school and stuff like that, my interests changed, my hobbies changed.
Right.
I really started to pick up photography, and I still had opportunities while we were in school to play. I played with a couple different churches and things like that, but I was playing less frequently on a lesser scale than you were, and then it just wasn't something that I wanted to really pursue long term. Mm-hmm. So I probably could have gotten better and gotten to a higher level, but I think for me, what it would have taken was harder work. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that to downplay hard work that someone like you puts in, but it's like a different kind of hard work. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's kind of like there are people that have taken lessons for instruments. And, I just had another thought too, but let me... There's people that have taken lessons for instruments for many years. Maybe for an instrument that you or I or somebody else has picked up with no lessons and has maybe surpassed on a certain skill level in a much shorter length of time. So now, though, I was going to say maybe that's an example of giftedness. Maybe, though, also, it's like kind of what we talked about on the last recording we did before you got here, that maybe somebody showing you note for note how to do something could actually hold you back from you trying to figure out everything, because in trying to figure out, you might learn three other things trying to learn the one thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So maybe in a sense, now at the end of the day, it's two different things, right? Because you can play by ear. Right? You could learn some more like chord substitutions because you played stuff by accident, but you don't have maybe the theory knowledge, the vocabulary, the ability to read music. So it's still, you're learning less, but you're able maybe to perform for an audience at a higher level.
Right. And you might also, in that process, I say this because it relates to me as a mostly self-taught photographer, you might learn something on your own, but you might learn the wrong way to do it, or a less proper, less efficient way of doing it. You still get from A to Z, but your path could have been simplified or can be simplified if you learn and you take the lesson for the proper way to do it.
Right. So, and I've experienced that in my own life too. Or like, let's look at, forget music. Let's look at learning Premiere Pro. Mm-hmm. Or I tell you, like Illustrator. So I designed the Marty, our miserable like character and everything.
You just named him for the first time.
Oh no, that was supposed to be a big event. I ruined everything. Anyways, his name is Marty. If you know what we're talking about. So But so I did that in Illustrator, but I've never been trained in Illustrator. So man, it was some tough things. And I've always said like, I can do it, right? So
Right.
I can design things in here, but I wouldn't want to teach it because I know that there are things that I'm doing and I'm making it so difficult.
So it's funny about how your and I's interaction with when it comes to like Illustrator. Like I'm not efficient at designing stuff in Illustrator so much because I speak Photoshop more.
Right.
But I understand a lot of the language for it. So I've gone in many times and I'm like, hey, when you were doing this, did you do this thing? And you were like, what's that?
I have no. Okay, for instance, this is embarrassing, but I'll just put it out there. I designed all of this stuff and never once, there's a T in that now, but I designed all this stuff and never once used a layer or multiple layers in Adobe Illustrator. Never once made layer 2, layer 3.
I think it makes it automatically when you're creating new shapes.
I have no clue. Then
Pretty sure
that
it
day
does.
we were working on it.
Yeah.
And then you were
You're
like,
like,
just
"There's
do another
layers."
layer. And I was like, and it's like, I knew that was there because I've watched YouTube videos, but I'd never like practically done it or thought of it myself. And then there's the other thing too, where just the reverse of this is where I did something and you've been working in Photoshop or whatever. I was like, just do this. And I did it. And you were like, you just blew my mind. It's like I used the pencil tool
The other
to
day.
like change a shape. And you were like, I had no clue. And it's like, then you showed me like the pen tool. And I was like, wait, that might even be better than what I was doing. But like we kind of blew each other's minds because the way we were doing things. So yeah, no, that's definite. Like without the formal education of it, you can get it done.
Right.
You can figure it out.
It's just how you
But
get there.
you may be a little less efficient, a little less polished. But you know, I've learned that working with musicians and producers. There's some like really big producers and musicians that don't know music very well. Or you're over your shoulder and you're over their shoulder and you're like, you know, you could have just done that. And they're like, huh? And you're like, yeah, like this dude is like producing for people I'm not producing with. You know, it's like you if you just press this shortcut and they're like, yo, you just changed my life. And you're like, how did you not know
I think
that?
it's probably
It's like,
it's probably
how
good
did
to
you
say
not-
too, like certain careers and probably now in the time that we're in with technology and the incredible number of ways to make money in non-traditional ways that there are now, you can live your entire life and work your entire career not getting that formal education.
Yeah.
Not knowing the right way to do things if it works for you.
Well, is it technically a right way? How to do it?
Some things, yes.
Explain.
I'd say with some of the more technical. Now, all right, let me backtrack on that a little bit. Like we're talking about the Illustrator thing,
Right.
like using the pen tool versus using the pencil. Different techniques, and and definitely have specific uses. But there are two ways that you can get one thing done, right? So in that sense, necessarily there isn't a right way in general, depending on like if you'd have to just like dive way deeper into what you're trying to do specifically, like with that shape. Am I trying to make this just a little bit more curved? Then you could use these little points and the handles.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I trying to like
Free
form it?
Yeah.
Then yes, pen versus pencil, right versus wrong for those cases. So I know what you're asking, and I think for a lot of cases there is no right way, but there are certain things that I think there are right ways to do it.
But is it like building a bridge? Like there's so many different ways to build a bridge, but really, if it stays up, you did it the right way, right?
Right.
So if you're an artist,
Is that a metaphor?
It's a soliloquy.
I'm just asking because
Yeah.
some engineers are probably going to yell at you for that.
Well, no, but I'm like.
I'm just
Seriously.
saying because the conditions
So
in which,
no,
in which
but
to build
I'm
that
asking
bridge.
you. I'm asking you, like, so
is why
what would
there's so many
why would
different types of
why
bridge.
would an engineer be mad at that? Because what's the right way to build a bridge?
Because I think you oversimplified the
But
idea.
are you defining it by its outcome? So like, let's say, okay, there's a right way to do photography. Is there?
No. But it's also a creative profession.
Okay.
Something like a bridge, there's so many things that, I mean, and this is just my non-knowledge of the subject, like you have to take into account.
We've
like
stepped outside of our lane here.
is it running over water? Is it running over land? Is it a suspension bridge? Is it a bridge that has support? Is it a high wind area? What are the temperatures like? So they're
okay, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the end outcome. It's still standing and in good condition 20 years later.
It's a bridge.
So if it's a suspension, if it's
maybe I missed the
one
important
point
whatever. If it what would now I'm trying to it's a metaphor. So like now let's relate that to anything else.
Who cares how you get there, bro?
Yeah.
So for instance, I agree. Some of the most iconic recordings, music recordings, some of the most iconic are not good recordings by technical standards. So when he says, is there a right or wrong way to do it? In my mind, you're saying, well, technically, yes, there is a right way to do it. But my counterpoint is why?
This is the difference. We're talking about like, you talk about music. I was talking about photography, design. So the end result, that point B on the bridge, is an object that's often up for interpretation, right? It's often something that's valued differently based on people's opinions. That song, those iconic songs that it could have been done on, less high quality equipment and all, like the stuff that you're kind of getting at, like those products, when it comes to the end, it doesn't necessarily matter because it's trying to either tell a story or evoke a feeling, bring up a memory, whatever the case may be. So if the product if you're able to get your message across and the product is able to create whatever your goal was.
Same thing you said about the bridge.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. But that's mainly because, and the bridge being a metaphor is why I asked, is this a metaphor? Because certain professions are not up to interpretation.
Well, all right. So I think a lot that has happened here. As humans, we've always put boundaries on things, right? So if you want to be a musician, you have to go this route, and that's the only way that you could do it. If you want to be successful, you have to go to college. Like, you just have to do that. If you want to do this, this is the route for it. Hey, if I want to go to Walmart from right here, I got to go up the street, make a right, make a left. That's the only way that you could do it. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in that. Maybe I don't want to go that way. Right. Maybe I just want to get on 95.
Maybe I want to drive to Kentucky first
and pass and then come back all the way around. Like, we've just put all these boundaries in saying, if you want to do something, that's the way that you do it. And I think that this generation now, also just because of just what they're exposed to and the technologies that's there for them, they're like breaking the barriers down. Mm-hmm. The only way that you could be successful is working in 9 to 5 in corporate America.
And part of that is a note that I wrote down because I didn't want to forget. We were talking about education and all of that stuff. Like, bro, YouTube. When we were growing up, we didn't have YouTube.
At all.
We had like drummersworld.com of just like clips of Bama's playing, but we didn't have people going, this is how you play this groove. Yep. This is how you play this lick. Put it on the screen. Slow it down. Play it as many times. We didn't have that.
At all.
So it's like anything now. Like with the animations that we've done for Miserable Company, bro, just YouTube. I have no formal training in that, and I'm not that great at it. But the point is, it's like, yo, I want to do an animation. Oh, Creative Cloud has something that I could probably use. Okay, now let me go look in these terrible Illustrator files that I've made. Like, let me go in and make that into this. And there's literally a dude on YouTube going, now click this, now click that, and I can watch him do it. So it's like, part of the reason is like now like he mentioned, like you have to go to college to be successful. You're like, it's not true. And we've had this talk before. And you were agreeing, with his sentiment. So like, and the point is, like now, man, I had a conversation today with a young guy, and I'm like, there's dudes playing video games, making more money than you, bro.
That are like a third your age.
Indeed.
Bro. And it's like, and it's like the young man's frustration was that he's caught right now in between these two worlds. That's like, you got to go to college, you got to get that 9 to 5, and you got to climb the ladder. That's how you succeed. And I'm like, so that's the kind of pre-existing, right? But this thing that's happening on the other side is like, or you can get on YouTube, learn a skill, and in 6 months be making that salary that you would be making in 10
corporate
years.
America, right?
And it's possible. People are doing it.
Right.
And it's about, like finding your niche and all of these things. And this is a whole nother podcast.
Oh, indeed.
But like the education thing has shifted so much. And what's crazy is, man, there's like these universities that have specialized in some of these things. And it's like, well, I can get on YouTube, save $80,000. Now, is there still maybe benefits? Yes.
Definitely.
I'm not saying that that's dead, but like for the person, for instance, I got so inspired a couple weeks ago. I walked into a Starbucks and there's a guy in the corner.
Making a macchiato.
Nah.
Probably.
But
different corner.
But there's a guy like in the corner, like kind of rough looking dude, like not clean cut, not like, looks like, he might have been wearing what he had type situation. This dude's got stacks of papers, bro, and his phone on the table. And he's got like a cup of water and this little table, bro, he's just got, and it's notes. And I look, and I'm like being nosy because I'm like, what is this dude doing? And I figured out that he's watching videos on how to drive trucks. And I see on the paper CDL. So this dude appeared to be in a rough situation, has a phone at least, and a Wi-Fi connection. And this man was in there taking notes. And I'm watching this truck doing parallel parking in this video.
An online CDL class or something?
And he's just on YouTube, just everything he can put in his head about how the laws behind driving a truck, how to drive a truck. And this man's like, he's going to save up some money, whatever he's got to do, go to this class and get his CDL so he can start making money. And I'm like sitting there, like I wanted to talk to him. I wish I would have, and I didn't. But like that, that's what was happening. And it's like, then you encounter people and it's like all these excuses. And it's like, I don't want to hear it because I'm watching this dude with nothing but a phone and a coat on his back, studying so he can put himself to make some money.
Right.
And it's like, man, back in the day, you had to go somewhere. Somebody had to give you the information. You had to go to a library, whatever it was. You had to get a course. You had to do all these things. This dude's just in there, bro. No, I'm telling you, it had to be 50 pieces of paper laid out. And just like this, just watching like this. Listening to his phone, writing, stop, pause, write. And I'm just like, part of me just like, how much is the test? Bro. I got you. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. So it's like, that's like, what it's done is the other note. I wrote 2 notes down. YouTube, you've got no excuse now. You can learn any skill now. Blacksmithing, woodworking, anything you want to do, bro, it's there. I watched a dude today make a gold engagement ring. Just came up in the algorithm. I sat there for 4 minutes. This dude's got a channel. He'll just show you how to make jewelry. But you used to have to go to school for that. Like now,
or some sort of formal training.
Right, yeah, you can start going to tools. There's places now, we talked about this, where if you want to do woodwork, you can go to a shop. You can start doing some woodwork, start learning a trade. Like, this is also, the thing. This is the...
Just to add on to that, the extra layer of making money from it is there now too. So instead of just learning the skill and maybe having to like then go and work for someone else or work in a place that already has this service so you can sell yourself, now you can make jewelry online. You can get into these handcrafted things
and become your own entrepreneur.
Right. And sell your services in
Etsy.
goods.
Go to Walmart, buy a $2 piece of wood, write love on that joint, and try to sell it.
And people do that.
For real.
Like that. So, but this is the point. This is one reason when people talk about talent, it frustrates me. Because I feel like sometimes people use that as an excuse. Like, I'm just not gifted in that. I'm just not talented. You're so talented. I just can't do that. And it's like people almost giving themselves an out for something, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you could start talking to somebody like, y'all know I love sales, right? So I tell young people all the time, one of the most valuable things I ever learned was sales because it helped me see the business world completely different. You know, if you can sell, you can run things. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like people need salesmen. That's like you could have a great product. You can't sell it, forget it. Like, right. You know, so it's like I started hearing all these things and doing all this studying, and I had some people in my life who were telling me all these things, and I'm like, man, I see it now. So like people can say, well, you know, yeah, I could probably make money doing that too, and you see it. Well, go to a car dealership. I worked at a car dealership. I'm just not good at this. Well, if you think that, I'm just not talented. Yeah, you just got the personality for this. Okay, there's somebody somewhere with no personality making a lot of money right now.
I think the important...
Right? But people use it, and this is where it comes back in.
Crutch.
Is the way Bob Ross said it, is if you have an interest, you'll pursue it. So it's two parts. It's the cop-out... because people aren't interested enough to actually try.
Right.
So now, though, there's no excuse.
At all.
There's no excuse. Like, I think the hardest thing for people now, especially when I talk to 18, 19, 20-year-old dudes, is like, they just don't know what they want to do. And it's like almost, maybe it was easier 20 years ago because it was like, you didn't have that YouTube. It's like you had to take a more traditional path in a sense. So it's like you either work for somebody or you start your own business. And starting your own business looked like creating a business plan, going to the bank, getting a loan, you know what I'm saying? Nowadays, it's like build a TikTok following, build an audience, and figure out how to monetize it. Congratulations. You're working. And what the problem is now, though, is a lot of parents don't see that.
They don't understand it.
Like, I'm going to tell my kids, like, hey, you like video games? Go open up one of those accounts and just start streaming it and talking to people. Hello, one of the biggest YouTubers making millions of dollars. You know, it's like, so it's changed. The internet has created this wild global instant market. That's like, man, you can find... There's billions of people in this world. If you could get 0.000000001% of those people to be interested in you enough to provide you with some sort of monetary gain, you're good. That's wild, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It used to be that you had to like think about where you lived. Like, bro, there's people like I saw a news article about these guys in some very poor country. I believe it was somewhere in Africa. And they make basically like short films with their phone. And they've made all of these contraptions and they're like sci-fi films. So they figured out ways to like use like random objects for special effects and stuff. And they're like blowing up. And they're literally like in a village, bro, with nothing. And it's like, all right.
It's excuses, bro. I think there's definitely like I said earlier, because while you were talking, I think a big contribution to a lot of this. So we talked about being gifted, and then we talked about being talented, and I think they all play a different part and purpose. And then I think a big contribution to all of that is also passion, right? Because if you're passionate about something, I think about my mom. My mom is very passionate about cooking. She might not be like the most talented, but she's very passionate about it. And it means everything. In everything that she touches, it means everything to her. I remember one day I was over at your house. Your mom made sloppy joes.
Forever talking about these.
Bro, crazy. I came home that night and I was like, she's like, hey, do you have dinner? I was like, yeah. Jeremy's mom made sloppy joes. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And I don't know if she felt a kind of way about it. She was like, oh, you liked it? I was like, yeah, it was great. She made these homemade coleslaw on the potato bread. Oh man, with the homemade sweet tea.
Went too far.
Bro, the next day I came home. She's like, hey, made dinner. I was like, all right, what is it? She's like, sloppy Joe. I was like, oh, come on.
You challenged her, bro.
It was a challenge, bro. And she's just passionate about it. So I definitely think a part of it is, sure, you could be born with a gift. And at some point, your talent kicks in. And your talent carries you for a while. But at some point, your passion is definitely going to be that constant torque that's like pushing you.
Yeah, I think the passion has to be, or the passion is the drive.
Right, definitely.
Right? And passion doesn't necessarily last for a certain thing. I think it's possible to be passionate about something for a time. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, oh yeah. You can look at who you talking to.
Okay, good. They agree, everybody.
Who are you talking to?
So, but I think that's what, and I think, but I also think passion is discovered because,
yeah, I agree with that.
For me, I liked doing like digital art and messing around with like software and stuff well before I started picking up a camera. And then what got me into photography was, at the time, the car that I owned, I was on like a forum for other people who owned the same car. And there was one guy on there from Texas who was always taking awesome pictures of his car. And I was like, how do you do this? Like they just always looked good. They looked like almost like advertising level to me at the time. And he started to kind of just tell me, he's like, well, this is kind of what I did here. You need to have a camera where you can control the elements of the settings and things like that, so you can get more of what you want. You know, if you want like light trails, you need to be able to do this, that, so that's what got me into it at first. I wanted to learn how to take better pictures of my car.
You wanted your car to look like his in the pictures.
Basically. Yeah. So at that time, my interest was just purely in getting cooler pictures of my car. And then the more I played around with it, I think part of it was because I'm a very technically minded person. Once I got into the technical side of it and started to learn, and YouTube wasn't huge then either. It wasn't around yet.
Right.
It would have been 2005, a few years before it even was really a thing.
We're old.
Yes. So I was on forums reading things, looking at things that people were putting out. I was talking to this guy. His name's David Seal. And that's how I was learning that. And that's where I started to discover that passion for it. And then it just grew from there. So I think that is the element that has to drive the talent and the interest to become more talented and the practice. And I think in a way that gift is the thing that if you have it, it kind of pushes you along at first until you either, plateau there, or the gift kind of like every now and then helps you excel, pushes you to a higher level, perhaps faster than someone else who doesn't have as much of a gifting for it.
You know what I would say is, I think what we're describing, like what you've said passion is and what kind of you said passion was, is essentially pursued interest. Something you're interested in enough that you want to pursue it. Right. Is that not what passion is?
Sure. I mean, probably a more extreme version of it, but yeah.
So like, I think that's why that rings so true. He says talent is pursued interest. It's like talent is anything that you're passionate enough about that you're willing to try until you can do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. There's just those people too that it's kind of like they're like passionate about anything that they touch. And so to us, it's just like they're good at everything.
We got to get David on here one day because like there's certain topics you bring up and he's just passionate. And it's crazy because he knows everything about it. He's so passionate. He's like looked into that. You know what I'm saying? You know people like that in different areas too.
It's like everything. It's just like, oh yeah, that's such and such.
Where you were talking about like, do you have passions like they come and go or however you phrase that? And I was like, are you kidding? Because like that's literally like everything. But I think it's not even just passion, and maybe passion plays a role in it. It's more curiosity.
Yeah.
So like
passion for discovery.
Like everybody talked about Einstein, right? And I'm like, why are we talking about Einstein? So I started getting curious. So I was like, oh, okay. And then maybe at some point, maybe that's the first step is curiosity, and then it turns into passion as you begin to know more about it. You know, that was you.
Yeah.
How are you taking pictures of this car? And then there was interest, and then you pursued the interest.
Right.
Passion.
Right.
We're geniuses.
We got it all figured out.
Yeah. So how does this like? What's the message in this to somebody? Like the whole point of this podcast is we want to encourage people and we want to inspire people.
I think like you used the word crutch, and I was actually going to say that a few minutes before. Don't let when you see other people who are good at something, if you have somewhat of an interest, or you maybe tooled around with that thing at some point, and then you set it down, and then you haven't been back to it. Don't let don't compare yourself to people, first of all.
Whoa, yeah. That's huge. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, don't ever look at someone and say, they're better than me. I could never be that good, so I'm just not going to try.
But that's how I look at Nico, but that's okay. Because I'm not a guitar player.
Yeah. And that's fine, because that's not something you're passionate about.
Right.
Right now. But don't ever let that excuse be a crutch not to excel or not to attempt to excel. Because you could find something and you could say, I want to be a good piano player, and then you start doing it, or me trying to play the drums, and it's like, actually, I don't want to do this. Nope. So, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's why I think I started the conversation out of frustration. Mm-hmm. It's because it bothers me when people take the easy road, or they cop out, you know, like, oh, I just can't do that. And that's part of the way I've always taken that phrase from some people. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's like, and that's why I think I started it from that. That's how I like. That's how it's kind of oriented.
It's probably not how the people have been meaning it,
or all of them.
Right? Yeah. Yes, definitely.
I think a good takeaway point is this. All right. Don't run away from your curiosities.
Mm-hmm. Don't assume you can't do it
at all, right? So if you're curious about something, just like this guy, learn about it.
Like we're talking YouTube. Yeah. The internet has so much information.
Yeah, like, definitely go for it, because you never really know.
Mm-hmm.
Passion. My biggest passion is music, and I've never lost interest in music.
Sorry.
You good?
Yeah.
He's turning into me.
I've never lost interest for music at all. I guess
I'm laughing at myself. I'm thinking about how dumb I'm gonna look on video. Picking my head up in my hat, smacking the microphone.
But that's just always just been my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten frustrated as a musician.
Or burnt out?
Nah.
Okay.
I've never gotten burnt out. I've just gotten frustrated, and my biggest frustration has just been with me, because I haven't invested into myself. I understand what my potential is, but I just never invested in myself to get to where my potential could have taken.
So like you look
me.
at a drummer doing something and you can't do it, and you're like, yo, if I would have just practiced the past
that's
few
it.
months,
That's
I could
it.
be doing
That's
that
all.
now.
That's all. Really, all it is.
Right.
It's just practice. And I'm just like, yo, if I just honestly, it's something as simple as, instead of watching TV for 20 minutes, if I just picked up my drum pad for those 20 minutes, that would make like a world of difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it then draws the question to, am I really passionate about?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because you had frustration. I think if you weren't passionate, you wouldn't care enough to realize that you're not where you could be.
So, all right. So then the question then becomes, if I was passionate about this particular topic, why didn't I invest the time? Why did I choose to then put my quality time not into my passion?
Because pursuit is dedication. Because passion is not dedication. Right?
Right.
Passion is more emotional.
Very emotional.
Whereas dedication is very practical.
Very practical.
Right?
Yeah.
Echo.
So somebody can be dedicated. That like no, somebody can be passionate. Okay, this is a perfect example. You know something everybody pretty much is passionate about?
Eating.
Stop. You know what everybody
I thought the same thing.
No, but listen, like practical sense. You know what everybody is passionate about? Making money. Right? Everybody thinks they should be making more money. Everybody wants to make more money for the most part. Somebody's gonna have to be like, not me, I'm fine. Okay, not you then.
Right,
everybody
cool.
else. What's different is not everybody is dedicated to making more money.
And that's what separates.
Everybody's interested in having more zeros in the bank.
Right.
Everybody's interested in that. Not everybody is pursuing it. Because as passionate as you are about playing the drums and wishing you could do those things with your offhand, your left hand, you haven't dedicated yourself to doing that. Because that's what it takes. It's dedication.
So
it's like starting something like the Miserable Company. We're passionate about it, right?
Right.
We're passionate about encouraging people. We're passionate about sitting down and having these conversations and being honest. Dedication, though, is 4 months from now. When you're messing with the restaurant, when your job sucks, when your kids are screaming, then it's dedication. That's when dedication kicks in. Dedication takes endurance.
I won't say endurance because then I'll become an echo.
How many people talking about everybody's passionate about making money or making more money? Not because you're greedy or you're evil, because it helps your family.
Right.
You put your kids in a better position. You put your latter part of life in a better. So let's just make it what it is. It's obviously, man, more money can help you, and it can help you help other people. You can improve your quality of life and other people's quality of life. So it's not an evil thing. So let's say, okay, in that context, everybody is interested in making some more money. But how many people who are interested in making more money have started something like this has the potential to do it? I could make more money doing this. I could do this on the side, or I could do this type of thing. So there's the interest, but then the endurance. And the dedication starts to wane. And then you're back at ground zero again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, I think it's just important to point out that maybe, these people who are really, really great musicians. So let's not give ourselves a cop-out. So like somebody I know who's just a blazing drummer. Let's talk about Wes. He's a blazing drummer. So I'm gifted in music. he's gifted in music. It's very easy to say, well, he started at a higher place of gifting than I did. Maybe.
Maybe not.
When I was at the movies, this dude, when you were watching TV, this dude was on the drum pad.
Right.
Well, you were starting to dedicate yourself to a whole new instrument. He stayed with it.
Or he stayed with it. Right. So this is another thing I thought about. Like one thing people have said about me is like, oh, if he picks up an instrument, he can just play it. And I was thinking like, you know, first of all, it's not true. Second of all, that doesn't mean I can play it well. But maybe that pursued interest thing, because I did that hard road and I didn't get that formal education, I had to figure out a certain way to do something that somebody who didn't, that allowed me to pick up another instrument and use that same technique that I used on the last instrument to figure out how this one works. You know what I'm saying? But the reason I say that is because I haven't dedicated myself. Right? I'm passionate about music in general.
Right.
You're passionate about music in general, but maybe you haven't dedicated yourself to the drums. And if you keep funneling it down, you haven't dedicated yourself to improving your left hand.
Right.
Right? Does that make sense?
Right.
So everybody's passionate about things, but it's that pursuit. The pursuit is endurance, is dedication that really sets some people apart from others. Right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
is that it?
Stick with it. Find your thing. I mean, because you mentioned like those 18 and 20-year-olds that like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do then either. It's okay not to know what you want to do, but
do something though.
Do something.
You gotta do something.
Actually, matter of fact,
because that's when you discover.
You got to do something.
Do everything.
You got to do something.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of times saying, "Oh, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just gonna sit at home," and you'll never figure it out.
Because
bro.
it's the pursuit of a thing that can lead you to the final thing. So, for instance, you look at the miserable company. We have somebody who. Say if we're all not great, over the past 10 years, in our pursuit of becoming a producer, in our pursuit of becoming a photographer and these different things, in our pursuit of becoming a musician, in our pursuit and our passions like about fashion, and all of these different pursuits and interests, now thinking, I'm going to do this type of photography, I'm going to do these type of recordings, whatever it may be, now those interests are paying dividends for things that now we never thought we wanted to do, but we're able to do it because we were pursuing something else.
Right.
And maybe we've zagged off into another path. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We've gone a different direction, but it's those things that have empowered us and enabled us to do maybe a different thing in the end, or more things in the end.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think for me, just hearing you say that, working in the retail world, it wasn't something that I thought was going to be a long-term thing for me. My initial thought was, this is just something to do after football. I won't be here for long. I remember telling people that I won't be here for long.
How long has it been?
17, March 9th will be 18 years later.
Wow.
Right? I've definitely learned a lot. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the retail industry was communication. What is effective communication, management and managing, emotional control. Like those are just things that has helped me in my own personal life.
Right.
And I honestly feel like if I never went through that avenue, I would have never figured those things out.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it then started showing like the strength. It wasn't necessarily something I was passionate about, but just the strength that I've developed. Like I've realized like managing people is probably one of my strong points. because my first management opportunity, I was managing 8 women, 8 older women that could have been my mom. I was probably like 23. They ate me alive, bro. My approach was, this is how I am. Y'all need to figure it out. Y'all need to figure me out. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, bro. And so it basically threw me back to the ground level, and I was just like, wow, that's not gonna work. That can't be my approach. Mm-hmm. Then I just started understanding everyone is different. So initially I was saying everyone need to follow me and follow my lead. And very soon after that, it was just like everyone is different.
Yeah.
Everyone needs a different approach. And then I really just figured it out. Like it just clicked like, oh snap, that's how it's supposed to be. So, I definitely learned.
How valuable is that for you now going into starting a restaurant?
It's
and just hiring employees.
Just hiring employees, dealing with people in general.
Working with people.
It's just like, it's definitely just opened my eyes up just to another level. Just regular day-to-day communication. One of the biggest frustration I have is walking into Walmart.
Yeah.
It like frustrates me, like, because no one cares, no one sees you, no one speaks to you, no one knows anything.
You look to try and find some help, and they like make eye contact and walk away.
Forget it, right? And I get up front. There's no line control. I get up front, and the lines are long, and I'm like, forget it. I don't even want to buy nothing. I'll just leave everything right on the front end cap and walk out. Like, yo, this is a joke.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just, one of the biggest things ever is like me just speaking to people. Before, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna mind my business. Now I'm walking through the grocery store like, hey man, how you doing? Yo, what's up? Yo, what's good?
To customers or employees?
Whoever. I don't care. Like, talking to people,
yeah.
I don't even care, bro. I don't have to know you. Like, before it was like, I don't know that dude. I'm not gonna say none of that. Like, yo, what's good?
Right.
Right? It's like, yo, just do something, bro. You're 18 years old, you're 19-year-old, do something. Mm-hmm. If it's something you like doing, that's even better.
Yeah.
But just don't be stagnant in your current situation.
There's value in the pursuit.
Definitely, bro.
Like, you pick up things along the way. And a lot of time, you hear this all the time, man. And when we finally release How to Stay Poor and Miserable, and we talk about the different stories that millionaires and billionaires, like their journey, man, 90% of them started off doing something and then discovered in that pursuit that there was something else, and boom, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the only thing that's not valuable is the non-pursuit, just sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully someone out there, man, definitely gets something of value from this, and hopefully this motivates someone. Get up off the couch, man.
Find your thing. Try to make something
niche,
of
bro.
it.
Go learn something.
Yeah, for real.
And go.
Even if it's not a passion,
it.
look up. Just like try and find an interest or a hobby, because sometimes in those cases, those lead to finding a passion.
A pistachio.
Those lead to finding a passion and a way to make a living.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because everybody could probably agree that they want to make a living doing what they love instead of working the job that they
doing
hate.
what they're doing something that's meaningful to them.
Right.
And it has a purpose beyond making money even, you know.
Just get out there, yo. Just do something.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
Miserable Podcast. We love you guys, man. Miserable Company, all that stuff. Follow us. Hit us up. Message us. Email us. We're not getting enough emails. We're not getting enough comments. And not because we care about any algorithms or anything. We just want to hear from more people. We want to talk to you. All the people that are following us right now and sharing. Chris Mulligan, Tyler, you
Angela.
shared. Angela, Unique. What's her name? What we talk to her all the time. All of these people that have just been like reaching out to us, AJ, the dude, Max, and all of these guys that are just saying you're listening, Travis, Fraser, Kyle. We're going to, of course, forget people, man. Thank you guys so much for listening and sharing.
Noelia.
And yeah, we love you
Everybody.
guys. We love everybody. Even if we got listeners in Ghana, the UK, Mexico, man, wherever you're at listening, thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do it for you guys, and we do it because we have fun doing it. If you couldn't tell by our 10 minutes of nonsense and our storytelling.
The 7 times we started the podcast.
Yeah. Hey, love you guys, man. Thanks for listening. Get out there, go and learn something, pursue something, chase your passions, have fun. It's a good life. You don't got to be miserable.
Eat a Klondike bar.
Don't. Miserable.